Now back inside to Katie.
Al, thanks so much. When Bing Crosby died back in 1977, Frank Sinatra called him, quote, the father of my career and the idol of my youth. Now, in celebration of what would have been Crosby's 100th year, we take a look back at his remarkable career and the lives he touched.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Bing Crosby, the classic crooner.
Have you heard it's in the stars? Next July we collide with Mars.
Whether singing with Frank Sinatra in High Society, clowning with Bob Hope in Road to Bali,
Put on out of my way, who do you think you are?
or dancing with Fred Astaire in Holiday Inn.
I'll capture her heart singing.
Crosby captured the hearts of an entire generation. Over his 50-year career, he recorded more than 1,700 songs, and in 1944, he won an Academy Award for his performance in Going My Way.
Or would you like to swing on a star?
Crosby's adventurous spirit, passion for golf, and volatile temper were also legendary.
Playing to that audience is like getting locked in a deep freeze.
Bing Crosby died in 1977, but he forever remains an American icon.
Going my way.
Kathryn Crosby was Bing Crosby's second wife, and she's the author of a new book, My Last Years with Bing. Kathryn, good morning. So nice to see you.
Katie.
I know that your first book, My Life with Bing, was published 20 years ago.
Yes.
Why did you feel it necessary to write another book?
Well, I was supposed to do it all at once, but then book one, My Life with Bing, weighed 5 pounds. And you can't really carry a book that's heavier than 5 pounds. So it's taken me 20 years to write the years from 1966 through 1977.
To Bing Crosby's death, and
Yes.
right?
I
And
didn't like the ending, so I just sort of procrastinated.
I don't blame you. So what is this book about primarily? I mean, tell me about your final decade together.
It was a marriage that was solid. It was about that. It was about the children growing up. It was about the things that we faced together. He had some health issues that he always hid from everyone, including me. I would think, oh, what have I done this time? What have I done that's wrong? Well, a kidney stone had moved. That's what was wrong. But he never complained, and that was quite heroic.
Do you think that that was the source of his volatile temper, or was
He was
his temper
never volatile with me.
I was going to say, was his temper as volatile as many people said?
I never knew anyone who said it.
Well, I guess there's a pretty famous book that was written by his son Gary, Going My Own Way.
Yes, that was Gary. Well, Gary.
And that was pretty controversial and fairly critical of
I just
Bing.
know that Gary asked me at one point, was I ever rude to Dad at the house? Did I ever have fights with Dad? And I said, no, not that I ever heard. He yelled at me once, but that was Gary, not Bing. Bing would every year say, no, you're not going to do summer theater. And I'd say, right, darling, out the door and off, because that was agreed before we married. But Gary didn't remember a lot of those years, and that was his problem, not Bing's.
You were 30 years younger.
Yes,
than
I was younger
Bing.
than Gary even.
Yeah, so did that create sort of weird issues for you?
Such relief. I didn't have to be a stepmother.
You
They
were like a
grown
step
people.
little sister almost.
No, I wasn't a step anything. I was just Bing's wife. We really had the longest courtship in history, and I thought, well, it's just not going to work, because there were so many people that felt I was too young, that he was too important, he was too dear to each and every one of his fans. And then he decided he really didn't want to live without me. And by that time I'd found that I could live without him. I wouldn't be as happy, but I could live without him. And I think both of those lessons were important. So that when we were married, it was just Bing and Kathryn.
You all had 3 children
We
together.
had 3 wonderful children, yes.
And so did the children from Bing's first marriage and your children have any kind of relationship? What was that like?
It was great fun, because the boys got married at the same time Bing and I got married. And they had children of the same ages. So we had parties on Sundays after Mass in the backyard in Holmby Hills. And kids toddling and falling and rolling around all over the backyard, and the big boys playing football a little bit, tossing the football, and talking sports with their dad, and it was great fun.
Meanwhile, it was a very glamorous life. You all would go golfing with Nelson Rockefeller. You would go fishing with Desi Arnaz. I mean, it must have been a lot of fun, but slightly daunting for you as well, wasn't it, to kind of enter this world?
Well, the thing I think that I did best, I became a nurse, a registered nurse, and I became a school teacher, a credentialed one, so that when we went to Mexico every spring, I could teach the children in school. And that's what I did rather well, until I wanted to really just throttle them, and then Bing would take them off fishing. And so we had 4 or 5 months just with our family every spring. And good friends, easy friends. Phil Harris and Alice Faye were very dear friends. And then the people in Hillsborough, you know, they came over the back fence and played with the kids. And I just tried to keep up with Bing all my life. I never quite made it. But I got a very light gun which never shot anything seriously, and I could follow him all day long and carry the guns and do those things. And he liked the writing, so I think he'd be pleased that I finished the book.
In fact, you write that during the last few years of his life, you found what love is.
Yeah.
Did your relationship grow deeper as he grew older?
Yes.
And what's life been like for you, Kathryn, in the many years that he's been gone?
Very busy. But this last year, with the centennial, I've met a lot of friends who have been devoted to Bing always. The man who brought me here today said, my life is devoted to Bing Crosby. That's pretty daunting, because they really felt he was a very special man. There was just a centennial at Gonzaga University, where he went to school, and Frank Sinatra Jr. came there to say that he loved Bing, and why.
Well, that's nice, and that must be wonderful for you.
It's really dear.
The book is My Last Years with Bing by
Yes.
Kathryn Crosby. Nice to see you again. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming by and telling us all about it
And the
this
introduction
morning.
was written by Bob Hope, who did have his centennial. Bing's is really not till next year.
Anyway, Kathryn, thanks again. And you
Thank
can
you,
read
Kate.
an excerpt from My Last Years with Bing on our website at today.msnbc.com. Can you believe Bob Hope's 100? Isn't that unbelievable?
Isn't it wonderful?
It's great. What a